Good morning, students. Today we are going to read yet another new chapter from a literature book, that is Expert Detectives. Now, students, what does the word detective mean? What does the word detective mean? So, a person, detective means a person, especially a police officer, whose occupation is to investigate, and solve crimes. इसको हिंदी में हम जासूस बोलते हैं. So, this story is about two expert detectives. Now, they are not police officer. The strange thing is that they are not police officer. Now, who are they? We'll come to know when we'll read the chapter. Now, Nishad, one of the central character of the story, a boy of 7, just 7 years old. He is of just 7 years old, and is also called 7 because his name means the seventh note on the musical scale. Musical scale, if you know music, then there are notes. There are notes, several notes on musical instruments. I also don't know whole, but sare, gama, pada, nisha. And so his name is also 7 because it means the seventh note on the musical scale. And his 10-year-old sister, Maya. These are the two central characters of the story, Nishad and Maya, are very curious about one Mr. Nath, to whom they think that he's a crook, he's a criminal. They want to be detective and they want to find out who is Mr. Nath, what all, what all sort of things Mr. Nath does, how he eats, what he eats, where he goes, all sorts of things. Then one day the children's marble rolls into Mr. Nath's room and Nishad gets a chance to see him. Is he a crook on the run? Crook means criminal. On the run means crook on the run means क्या वो भागा हुआ है पुलिस. He has escaped from police and just ran away. Why is his face badly scarred? Scar means some burn marks or some marks, on face. Why is his face badly scarred? Why has he no friends? Nishad's mother is a doctor and knows Mr. Nath as a patient who is very polite. So Mr. Nath's behavior is very polite. Let's start the chapter. As we walked back towards the clinic, Seven said, "He doesn't look anything like a monster, Maya. But did you see how thin he is? Maybe he's very poor and can't afford to eat." So, Nishad is quite young, just 7 years old. So, he's assuming that he's thin because he's very poor and he can't afford to eat. Then Maya replies, "He can't be poor if he's a crook on the run. I told him. He's probably got millions of rupees stashed away somewhere in that room." Stashed away means hidden. So he can't be a crook. Do you really think he's a criminal, Maya? He doesn't look like one. Nishad looked doubtful. Of course he is 1/7, I said, and he certainly isn't starving. Mr. Mehta told us that Ramesh brings his meals up from the restaurant downstairs. So if someone is poor, how can he afford to eat food from a restaurant? So Maya thinks no, he is a crook. And he gives several reasons for that. Then his brother Nishad replies, "But Maya, Mr. Mehta told us he doesn't work anywhere. So how can he possibly have money to pay for food?" Nishad said. And then Maya replies. Exactly. Exactly, I exclaim. This is what I want to say. He must have lots of money hidden somewhere. Maybe in that trunk in his room, it's probably full of silver and gold and jewels and blah 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 blah. Many more things in that trunk. If he doesn't work anywhere, how does he pay for that food in that restaurant? But Nishad interrupted. What rubbish. Then his sister continues, Maya, I know I'm right stupid. I told him, by the way, Seven, did you see his cars? वो दाग तुम देखे? I couldn't. It was too dark. But I bet he got them during a shootout with the police or something. That scar must be when he must have a shootout with the police. But Nishad says, but Mama told us quite clearly that they were burn scars. तो जलने का दाग था. Then Maya says, perhaps the police had to set his house on fire to force him out. I suggested. Seven looked unsure. So Maya is trying to just prove that Mr. Nath is a crook. Somehow he is a crook. On the Monday following Mama's birthday, Seven went alone with her to the clinic at Girgaon, and as I was spending the evening with a school friend. So Maya didn't go there. As she was spending the time with a school friend, so on that day, Seven went alone to her mother's. When they returned, Nishad told me he had been to see Mr. Nath, and I felt most annoyed that I hadn't been there. So she was very much tensed why I was spending the time with my school friend, why I didn't go today. Seven had been quite upset about Mr. Nath's gaunt appearance and was sure that he was starving. He told me that he had knocked loudly on Mr. Nath's door that evening and said, open the door quickly, Mr. Nath. The man had opened it and asked him, lost another marble. He had obviously recognized my brother. So he just Seven knocked on Mr. Nath's door that evening on the day which Maya, on the day which Maya was spending the day with her school friend. And Mr. Nath opened and asked, lost another marble. Means he was quite familiar with this boy, है ना? कि फिर से तुम्हारा marble खो गया. So he was quite familiar with that boy. So he had obviously recognized my brother. No, said Nishad. He had taken the man's hand on his own and thrust a bar of chocolate into it, probably due to his mother's birthday. Then Maya was too curious to know about Mr. Nath, and she says, did you get a chance to peek into the trunk, Seven? I asked. Did you get a chance to peek? क्या उसके ट्रंक में झांकने का मौका मिला तुम्हें? Nishad looked disappointed. He didn't even ask me in, he said. वो अंदर तो बुलाया ही नहीं मुझे. How can I just peek into that trunk? Then he smiled. But I did find out something, Maya. I went down to the restaurant where Ramesh works and talked to him. Good for you, Mr. Detective, I said, patting him on the back. I hope you questioned him properly. Seven looked pleased. He was very much pleased when his sister, Maya, patted him and said, good for you, Mr. Detective. So he's giving a term to him. कि तुम क्या हो? You are Mr. Detective. And he was quite pleased. And then he continues, Ramesh told me that he takes 2 meals for Mr. Nath every morning and evening and 2 cups of tea. One in morning and the one in afternoon. Ramesh says he's not very particular about what he eats. It's always the same food, 2 chapati, some dal and vegetable. Mr. Nath pays cash and tips well. Now the term, he pays cash. Pay attention, students. He pays cash. He doesn't work anywhere. But still, he's paying good. He's paying in cash to the waiter, Ramesh. And not only pays, but he tips also. What is a tip? A small token of love, है ना? Small token of love, small part of money given for good service to the waiters. So he not only pays in cash, but he tips also, Ramesh. Ramesh told me something very strange, Maya. Pay attention, students. 7 added. Almost every Sunday, he carries 2 lunches to Mr. Nath's room. And the same man is with him each time. So every Sunday, there is a visitor. And the same man is the visitor. The same man every Sunday. He's tall. This is the appearance of that visitor. He's tall, fair, stout, and wears spectacles. Ramesh says his visitor talks a lot, unlike Mr. Nath, who hardly speaks. So that visitor is very talkative. That visitor is very talkative. Well done, Nishad. I told him now that we have made some progress with our inquiries. We'll have to sort out all the facts like expert detectives so that we can trap the crook. And who is the crook? In their mind, Mr. Nath. How how you do go on, Maya, seventh side? How can you possibly imagine he's a crook? Till now we have not proved that Mr. Nath is a crook. How can you call him a crook? He looks so ordinary. Here also Maya gives quite relevant reason. Criminals can look quite ordinary, smarty. I retorted. Did you see the picture of the Hyderabadi housebreaker in the papers yesterday? He looked like any man on the street. Nishad looked doubtful. The monsoons broke the next day. Dark clouds, accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning and roaring rolls of thunder, burst with all their fury, flooding the streets with heavy downpour. So there was heavy rain. Okay. So the next day, dark clouds accompanied by blinding flashes. So there were lightning, rolls of thundering, lightning, and very heavy rain. School was to have opened after the summer holidays, but no traffic could move through the flooded roads, and there was an unexpected holiday. And students, these unexpected holidays are the best. You know, when you don't expect a holiday and you get, they are the best ones. So that next day was an unexpected holiday due to the those flood, that flood. I thought I'd spend the time usefully. I sat at my desk in a bedroom with a sheet of paper before me. And I wrote in large block letters catching a crook. Expert detectives Nishad and Maya Pandit. And who has appointed them? Appointed to the whole world. So now she will note down, she will jot down the, the areas where they have detected. They will jot down the note points. You know, they will write down all the points what they have noticed about Mr. Nath. And whether they'll be able to catch the crook, we'll go through the second part next day. Okay. Thank you, student.